Hello, I'm Catherine Gallagher and I'm a clinical psychologist by trade and am the clinical practice manager at START, and that's an NGO in Christchurch which supports children, youth and adults who have experienced sexualised violence. So we provide counselling and consultations and education, things like this. So really happy to be part of this process.
Kia ora, I'm Liz Riley. I'm Kaiarahi team lead at Manaaki, which is the mental health and wellbeing support within primary schools in Canterbury.
My name's Sam. I'm a child psychologist, child and family psychologist, and I work at Kids Psych and also at START, supporting young people who are having difficulties.
Well, welcome Catherine and Sam. We're here today to talk about trauma. So can we start with just what is this thing called trauma? Can you tell us your definition?
Yeah, well, it's a really good place to start, I think, Liz. Trauma actually is of Greek origin, the word, and it literally means wound. Yeah, and I think it's good to kind of demystify it a bit, because the word trauma and traumatic those words get bandied around quite a lot these days. I was listening to somebody the other day who said, I went to see this movie and it was really traumatic. But chances are it actually wasn't traumatic. It might have been sad or distressing or disturbing. But when we talk about trauma, we're thinking about being placed in a situation where we're completely overwhelmed. And it's when we have a threat to our literal survival. So we're in a situation where we're unable to escape, we're rendered powerless, and we're completely overwhelmed. Yes, so there's quite a difference there. And we can think about, living here in Canterbury, even in the last 10, 12 years, there's been a number of events for our young people and for ourselves that have been potentially traumatic.
And it's interesting you bring those up, because I think in those events there will have been some traumatised people, but there might have also just been some people who were very scared. And I think that when we think about trauma, it's not always the event that creates the trauma. The event can be scary, but it's the person's experience. So for some people in the earthquake, I know my kids were kind of like, was the Xbox okay? And as soon as they worked out the Xbox was okay, they were kind of like, and then they had a picnic with their cousins. So that potentially traumatic event was experienced by them as something that was a bit unsettling, but wasn't overwhelming. Whereas someone else might have been part of that very same experience, but their internal experience would have been very different, because for them, they felt like I might have died, or they had that real intense, overwhelming fear that someone I love might have died. So that's an important thing to think about. It's the internal experience as well as what happens outside.
Quite a difference.